Ladies and gentlemen,
good
good
morning,
morning,
good
good
afternoon,
afternoon,
good evening,
great
wherever you
wherever you
are.
are.
Welcome to
Welcome to
this
this
broadcast.
broadcast.
Today is
Today is
Saturday,
Saturday,
the
the
6th of
6th of
March,
March,
2021.
2021.
It's
It's
an
an
impromptu
impromptu
broadcast
broadcast
to
to
celebrate
celebrate
the
the
independence of
independence of
Ghana,
Ghana,
the
the
great
great
African
African
nation.
nation.
And we are
And we are
celebrating
celebrating
Ghana
Ghana
or
or
Ghana's
Ghana's
independence
independence
within the
within the
context
context
of
of
African
African
Catholic
Catholic
immigrants
immigrants
in the
in
United
the United
States.
States.
I live in
I live in
the
the
Washington DC
Washington DC
metro
metro
area,
area,
technically made
technically
up
made
of
up of
the District
the
of
District of
Columbia,
Columbia,
Virginia,
Virginia,
and
and
Maryland.
Maryland.
Even though
Even
the
though the
three
three
dioceses
dioceses
that we
that
are
we are
particular
particular
about
about
the
the
Diocese of
Diocese of
Arlington,
Arlington,
the
the
Archdiocese of
Archdiocese of
Washington
Washington
DC,
DC,
and the
and the
Archdiocese of
Archdiocese of
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
We
We
have
we
an
have an
association
association
called
called
African
African
Catholics of the
Catholics of the
DMV.
DMV.
So
So
DMV would
DMV would
be
be
District of
of
Columbia,
Columbia,
M
M
for
for
Maryland,
Maryland,
V for
for
Virginia.
Virginia.
And
And
this
this
organization has
organization
been
has been
in
in
existence,
existence,
I think,
I
since
think, since
2001,
2001,
2002,
2001,
Right, 10
about that.
plus years.
yes.
Yes.
And
And
we are
we are
now
now
part of
part
a
of a
bigger
bigger
movement
movement
called the
called the
National
National
Association of
Association of
Catholics
Catholics
in
in
the
the
States,
States,
NACUS.
NACUS.
On set
On
with me
set with me
is
is
Albert
Albert
Gyan.
Gyan.
I'm proud to have a
To have a
Ghanaian
Ghanaian
to celebrate
celebrate
the
the
Ghanaian
Ghanaian
Independence
Independence
Day.
Day.
Albert, thank you
Albert,
for
thank you for
coming on.
coming on.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't want us to miss the opportunity to celebrate what they call the great warrior, King Warrior Ghana.
Right.
Right.
So if
So
you
if
have
you
known
have known
Albert
Albert
for just a
for just a
couple of
couple of
years,
years,
Right.
but if you
but
have
if you
met
have met
Albert, you
Albert, you
know
know
that you have
that
met
you have
the
met the
globalist,
globalist,
you have
you
met
have
an
met an
African, you have met
you have
a
met
Catholic.
a Catholic.
Right.
So
So
you can
you
take
can
that in
take that in
what order you want.
you want.
But I
I
believe
believe
from the
from
point
the
of view
point
of
of view of
Catholic,
Catholic,
I don't know
I
whether
don't know
you
whether
as
you
a
want
perspective
to
for
take
now,
it now
for him
for him
to
to discuss.
but we
But
have
we
to
have
talk
to talk
about
about
the global
global
within
within the
the
context of
Africa and
Africa
the
and the
church
church
in
in
whatever
whatever
order
order
in the next
in the
30
next
minutes.
30 minutes.
And
And
I wanted
I
to take
wanted
this
to take this opportunity
first
first
to see
to
that
see that
we
we
African
African
immigrants in the
in the
United
United
States,
States,
in the
in the
Archdiocese of
Archdiocese of
Washington,
Washington,
are very
are very
proud
proud
to have
to
the
have the
first
first
African
African
immigrant
immigrant
being
being
a
a
bishop
bishop
this week
this
Amen.
week
Amen.
of the
the
Diocese of
Diocese of
Ireland.
Ireland.
And
Yeah.
And
that
that
diocese is
diocese is
of the
of the
Archdiocese of
Archdiocese of
Washington.
Washington.
I think
I
I
think
don't
I
It's an
don't.
yes, St. Paul.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
St. Paul.
So
So
we are
we are
proud.
proud.
Monsignor
Monsignor
Fojo
Fojo
celebrated
celebrated
March for
for
African
African
Cup 3 years
3
ago.
years ago.
And
Right.
while we are
2017. Yeah.
praying and clamoring, finally we have one. And
And
in the
in
days
the
ahead,
days
we
ahead,
hope we'll be able
we'll
to
be
get
able to
together.
get.
So within that
So within that
context,
context,
what I have
what I
said,
have
what do
said,
you
you
feel
feel
and
and
Happy Independence Day.
Independence Day.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And you're doing a yeoman's job. As I was discussing with you a while ago, in the past, if you'd never owned what they call a Gutenberg printing press, you couldn't get your voice heard or broadcast. But today, thanks to tools that we have on the internet, you can sit home and broadcast to the world. And I appreciate all that you're doing and the efforts you're making to get our voices heard. The frustrations you've been encountering are very similar to what I have also been seeing. But of course, we couldn't sort of pass this opportunity of celebrating Ghana's independence in with a backdrop of having a bishop from the African diaspora not too long after we had a cardinal of African descent also appointed. And often, and I think, Lambert, you and I have had this many times, when people tend to say, why do you always look at things with the color as the lens or the glasses. But what many fail to recognize is that, and that's what our Lord told us, if you don't address the needs of our brothers and sisters, you're not really doing what you have to do. And at the moment, that is where the focus lies. And that is where this whole debate of whether it's wise to say Black lives matters or every life matters, it's almost moot. So I'm happy we've had this occasion to sort of share some thoughts about what it is that is missing in this arena of African Catholic voices in a discourse that is going on in a very divided community that we live in at the moment. I mean, there's no need telling, even within our own African Catholic community, the voices are quite divided. So I am more or less perceiving this challenge in the context of this pandemic as a reawakening. We are being called upon. Well, of course, when the Lord told his disciples to go, they went door to door. There was not a pandemic. But the moment we have the opportunity to go, what I'm short calling Zoom to Zoom, and reaching folks on the internet. So this is a very important tool, and we should let our voices be heard. So I'm here to have this conversation with you in the context of mobilizing the little resources that we have. And we have a lot, actually, be it our talent, our time, and our little middle's mite, our treasure, to help advance the cause of African interests and people of African descent.
So thank you very much, Albert. And it's kind of interesting. Pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, who was the first black cardinal of African American, and before that, he's our archbishop. Yeah, we are proud to say we are the first to and it feels good, that black is being recognized in sense. And just to the icing on it in terms of I have an identity in a certain sense. So it doesn't matter whether black or white, I have to see that identity, whether people or not. The problem is, and this is what I like about it, it is never either or. It is and.
Right.
So whether it's Black Lives Matter or all lives matter, we all have to celebrate. Right. But at this point, there's a message that everybody needs to think about Black Lives Matter in the context of all lives matter.
Exactly. And it's, I mean, like you rightly pointed out, you have been equally very well influenced by Catholic social teaching. We've seen the struggle of many of our minority groups around the world. And the whole focus on the marginalized is not so much to discriminate and separate one from the other. I always point to the fact that, when the Portuguese arrived on my grandmother's village in Shamar, the first to arrive on the subcontinent in the 1500s, they found gold just abundantly at the entrance of the River Pra. Okay, and our people were very hospitable. They were welcoming, and it's part and parcel of the African tradition that you see a stranger, you see an image of God, you embrace him, you welcome him. Okay. No, for a couple of decades, they enjoyed the plenty that we had on the coast. It was Gold Coast before it became Ghana. That was called the Gold Coast by the Portuguese, and there was so much gold. And of course, there was enough to go around. The unfortunate sad thing, and I often tell my kids when I'm trying to narrate the story of how things turn around, is that if you read a fairy tale and you found an adventurer or a pirate or somebody going across the seas to go and look for treasure. Okay, the moment the person found the treasure, one would think, oh, yes, he's found the gold. That's a nice ending of a story. But the unfortunate thing was that these folks became greedy. And the greed is what is perpetually crippling our society. And of course, it's found its roots in the church. So I say that until we are able to acknowledge the fact that what this greed has done is it underpins the biggest sin in humanity, which is really an affront to the human dignity, which is the discrimination. And often people say, when I start talking about it, say, well, the slavery existed before. I say, yes, in almost every society. But for the very first time, our European brothers were seeking to justify why they should treat blacks as less human, as cattle. And that was when the transatlantic slave trade started. And that's where the sin started. I call it a sin of humanity, an affront to the human dignity. And they needed to justify that these folks are not human beings, they are half human, so that they can continue to exploit. And it's just greed. There was enough for everybody to go around. Okay, so I think as Africans coming from a continent that has seen a number of conflicts, and we've seen how many of our communities have come out, and as Catholics, you know, I don't know whether you saw the article that Prof. Williams wrote about every Catholic should visit Elmina Castle because of the role, that Catholics are played in slavery.
In fact, without stopping, I was asked you to talk about that. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, it's something that we need to. I never heard about it until you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I think, as you just pointed out, there are some voices that we need to give a platform to. And it's not that, I mean, I've heard bits of that story, and I have been to the castle, and I've seen the chapel on top and the dungeons at the bottom, and we've heard all kinds of stories. But what Williams does effectively is that she's Catholic in Villanova, I mean, quite a reputable institution, and he does so with so much honesty, and she's not seeking to point fingers. He's saying, look, this is there's no time to push our debt under the rug. This is part of our mess as Catholics. We should find ways of dealing with it. And one way to get each and every one of us to deal with this is to make it a point to take he was calling it the pilgrimage to Elmina, where about 70 to 80% of the slaves, those who were enslaved, came from, both in Cape Coast and Elmina castles. You know, and then the beauty, as you also pointed out, is that she is sort of, let's own it. Because the moment we start trying to excuse the church from such issues, then we are missing the point. We're not going to address what the problem is. And that's why people are even questioning why we should be talking about Black Lives Matters. It's at the very bottom of that issue.
Yeah, I think we have time for that larger conversation, but it's important to know that there are I think justice makes it real. Racism has its roots in the Catholic Church. Okay. We can have that. One of the things that's regretted, it comes to the leadership at the Vatican.
Right.
You go through to show okay. All that. But in our modern, it has become to be able to see where Africa has a city within its hierarchy. I mean, you have a Ghanaian who is at the back, well and has been many people think he be a pope. Okay. The church in Ghana, can you tell us how strong and how I know that within the context of fighting, we have had many African Americans to Ghana. Yeah, and I've foothold and turning here. Tell me a little bit.
Right. No, you're weaving a very beautiful pattern. It's almost like a kente cloth. It's all mashed up. There's a tendency for us to segment and separate. I often, when I moved down here, and I was more or less confronted with the discussion of slavery and conversation with our brothers and sisters of the African American, there was a tendency for folks to see the struggle for civil rights as just African American issue. Okay, and of course now people are saying that it's not just civil rights, it's human rights, and for us the church is really an affront to human dignity. So at no point in time should any Catholic feel that they are excluded from those conversations. And for me, that perspective was sown in St. Augustine's College, which is a premier Catholic school in Ghana. It was previously a seminarian, and then it was a seminary. And Cardinal Texan has been there. He was in my church. And I consider him equally a very progressive person. We wanted to get him down for a couple of conversations. But you are right in the sense that our voices are missing for one reason or the other. And I, at the moment, especially since we are having a public conversation, deferred the conversation about others to another time. The first step to address the issue is from within. Charity begins at home. We as African Catholics have to get our act together. And I believe if you read some of the progressive pronouncements of Cardinal Texan, I mean, just give you a concrete example. That's why I applaud you for what you are engaging. In a time when we're all in lockdown, and of course, there was indirect and direct assault on people of African descent. And we had at that time, bishop speak up, and then the Cardinal Texan also speak up. Hardly were you hearing any African voices or African in the diaspora voices, because they've been silent for one reason or the other. They don't use the tools that are being used for the conversations today, which is the internet. And I think that it's an unfortunate thing. And I know you and I have discussed it in the many groups that we found ourselves in, that we have to build the capacity of especially the African clergy who are indirectly be part of doing what many are called reverse evangelization. Because many of the Catholic clergy here need strong foot soldiers, and our clergy from the continent are helping do that. Some will consider it as a brain drain of some sort, but I think it's a healthy experience if we use it well. But you and I can also agree that it is with those very same leaders that we've been unable to come and see eye to eye on certain very progressive issues, be it on abortion, be it on gay rights, be it on, and it confuses the whole agenda and reduces everything to wait till hereafter. I mean, we are promised have heaven on earth. There is a tendency to defer those conversations to let's do our piety, do your sacraments, and then you're not too much engaged in the social issues because they're a bit too complex to deal with. And that's what we need to get involved in.
So I mean, one of the most fundamental issues of African in general, African immigrants, Catholics in particular, silence. We think that are going to be up to go. We don't want to legwork. Okay. Take inflation. You hardly a few groups. That's fine. The two with the dollar, the euro, whatever. We don't have. And we all on. You have to making some volunteer. Isn't it weak? But it is that we have not to quarrel and voices where and become critical.
Right.
Why? Earth, that there is department or for Africans at the bishop country in the United States. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Bishop. Because we are even with four as Catholics, how many Africans are engaged?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At the national level, how many are? What do we need?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you see, you touched on a very interesting, what I say, a cop out. You know, the whole drive. I need to put food on the table. I need to take care of the family, and therefore everybody's chasing the dollar or the euro or whatever. Okay, I mean, it's legitimate, but if you look at the life of most of us here and around, we have more than enough, and we are living a far better life than most people. So I think until we start acknowledging the fact that we have enough and we are enough to bring about that change, you know, it's not going to happen. I said I would rather defer the conversation as to how the hierarchies and the structures are so structured that it sort of puts their still on the margins. But until, like you rightly pointed out, if we don't get ourselves ready to take advantage of every opportunity, we are continuously going to find ourselves in this situation. And that's why I like at least the process that you are on, which is engaging with people publicly and speaking to our clergy, our African leaders. And I'm hoping that subsequently the leaders, the previous president, President Emeritus of ACA, could come and have that honest conversation with you. Because it is not accidental that we have constantly been using the excuse of, look, we have to, you know, we are immigrants, we are struggling, and we therefore have to address that. But if living life is just chasing after money, then we might as well forget our Catholic faith. You know, therein lies the challenge. And I also believe, just like you have within your means, the tools at your disposal to broadcast to the world, there are tools available, and we have enough talent. I've seen some of the folks we've interviewed who are ready to engage. What is lacking is putting together a core group that can stand together. You know, there's an analogy that I often use, that if you are trying to dam a stream or a river, and you are a sole person and you have to go upstream and pick up a sand or bark and put it there and then walk up there, by the time you come back, that one has been sort of swept away by the stream. But if you have enough folks with you, you know, about 4 or 5, you gradually be able to build that dam and tile it. So what is our problem at the moment is to at least, we have a lot of issues that we still need to get eye to eye on. But let's get the very basic, form a core group that we can at least pool our resources and engage together, you know, and then we can create. And that is not to say that we don't have differences that we should address, but it is a danger that we fall in, and that is very much exploited. It's been exploited on the continent, divide and rule techniques. You know, we know for a fact that the conflict that we are facing in this country doesn't necessarily have to ask, where are you from? They look at your color and you're a victim, one way or the other. So there's even no sort of need to even contest, well, why do we not have a conversation with the African-American brothers on a level that at least we could relate to what they are going through, because we are going through that. There are other issues that you and I have seen being addressed in this dialogue. But the first step is for us to acknowledge that let's gather and create that common platform and engage in a concerted effort.
So for the sake of those who are watching, those who come back, if you are interested in this conversation, you are African, Catholic, you don't know how to, you can always reach out to me on this platform. Albert is also on every social media platform you can imagine. Just Google, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. But it's an important conversation, not just for the sake of it. That is good itself, but because we want to take concrete action that will be able to bring us together, so that we can advocate issues that concern us. Albert has a hard time at 3 minutes. We're going to get Albert. I don't get without asking you. I mean, within the cancel culture, okay, which is so dominant today, and you know, there's an interesting conversation going on about Africa has been conflict by religion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that People spend hours in the continent, and they're so poor.
Right.
While the rich people are that.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate simplification of the issue at stake. If you ask yourself, how come people that have been oppressed for over 400 years have been able to survive? Where do you think it comes from? It's their faith. It's their faith in God and their worship that has gotten them through this time. So in as much as some so-called prophets and the church leaders are exploiting them, we should never underplay the role that faith and religion plays in survival. I mean, there's this slogan that I often use, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. The only reason why one will buy into such a belief is because you have faith. Somebody was asking me at an event, so how come these slaves were singing gospel songs and Negro spirituals what kind of faith? I said, look, that is what has kept our people alive, and that's what has kept us through. So in as much as we need to look at the destructive nature of the so-called new churches, it shouldn't be confused with faith that Africans need to be able to wither the day-to-day vagaries of the critical challenges that they face. But that's a very interesting conversation for another time.
So again, we have gone through 6 topics in 25 minutes. We could have decisions for a whole day.
Right.
This was just a teaser. It was meant to say about being African and being in the United States. And we are going to be very regular with inviting guests who want to join this conversation. Before I ask the last word, there's somebody who, my dear, that's an author, Sylvia Sama. The amazing thing about that is that the programs to work on. And I think if I did not mention the visit of father to Iraq, one of the most at the pandemic.
Right.
That is a crazy.
Forget that. You can be proud as Catholics. You can certainly be proud as Catholics.
Correct. So, I don't use your time.
Well, what I'll do is I'll throw you a challenge of saying, get a few of us together and let's see how we can help you amplify the voices of African Catholics, especially, and teach some folks the traits of getting our voices ahead. It doesn't take much. I know it requires some time and dedication, and I believe we can make it. And you are a very shining example of that possibility. So I'm very thankful for you giving me this opportunity to celebrate the Independence Day of Ghana with you. And as Nkrumah said, the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it's linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. And I think in this context, with the total liberation of the people of the Africa diaspora as well, because now the African diaspora is the 6th region of the African continent. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I wanted to say Happy Independence, President of Catholics Association happens to be Ghanaian. Okay. When I wanted to say happy day to the National Vice of NACO, Kwame Freeman, happens to be Ghanaian.
Right.
I also wanted to say Happy Independence Day to the state of NACO, also happens to be Ghanaian. Of course. Just tell me what from means. Go.
Oh, Kojo I'm born on a Monday. I'm a Monday born, Kojo. And the Chrome is an ancestral name. I will probably take me a long while to explain what it is. But we are named after the day we are born. And I come from a matrilineal society. So I follow my mother's clan and I follow my father's, what we call Asafo, which is, I belong to his church because he was Catholic. And I belong to his the Asafo company, which is in the old terms the warriors of my group. So all the Fanti groups have affiliations along. So I come originally from from Shama, as my mother's hometown, where the Portuguese first arrived, and then lived the rest of my adult life in Cape Coast.
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
thank you.
Robert and I
give
give this teaser
and
there's more.
Okay.
Enjoy the rest of the Ghanaians. We are with you. We're going to sell and great week.
Great week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. Take care then.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.